Hello everyone, Assalamualaikum. A very good morning to all the ladies and gentlemen in this session here. Greetings from Universiti Malaya. I would like to welcome everyone to the Universiti Malaya Global Engagement 2021 series, and I wish everyone the pinkest of health. My name is Professor Yong Zulina Zubairi, the Associate Vice Chancellor for International at Universiti Malaya. It gives me great pleasure to be moderating this event that brings together leaders in Southeast Asia region on a topic that is very relevant to us as we are all going through the pandemic. For your information, this webinar is part of the event of Universiti Malaya Global Engagement 2021, which kickstarted in April actually, where we hosted the Solve Climate Change webinar with collaboration from the APRU. In the following month, we organized Jom Iftar events for students where we collaborate with other partners. So in this session, we collaborate with the ITTP, which is the International Teleconference organization that arrange that will be having their webinar in August. So, ladies and gentlemen, the main events that we're having here today is a topic that is very relevant to us. So before I introduce you to each and every one of the four panel, where they will be given 10 minutes to deliver their talk, in which you are more than welcome to submit questions to the Q&A button located at the bottom of the screen. I will read the questions, post it to all the panelists during the Q&A session. To all who are present here, I can see from Philippines, I can see from Indonesia, and I can see some from China. Thank you once again. And I think in this session, you all can relate to the time that we are experiencing now. In the time of COVID-19, a lot of us, we have known people who have experienced loss of control, a sense of vulnerability of ourselves and others, a huge roller coaster of the challenging emotions, including guilt, uncertainty, and grief. So with so many unknown, we are left with no other choices but to live in the present moment, one day at a time. And mind you, it is not easy. So mindfulness is a topic that is very relevant, where it is actually a practice of paying attention to the present experience with curiosity, with compassion. We will need to learn to collaborate with each other rather than fighting them. So for today, we will hear the insights from the speakers. So please allow me to introduce the first speaker. Associate Professor Dr. Vishalashi Balakrishnan is an associate professor at the Universiti Malaya. She started out as a teacher in education, but further went to pursue her doctoral studies at the University of Victoria in Wellington, New Zealand, and further on doing a research leave at the Waikato University in New Zealand, and completed her postgraduate studies in critical psychology education and inclusive education. Dr. Visha is currently the Director of Research Center for International and Comparative Education at the Universiti Malaya, and also the coordinator of the service learning for the university. So, without further ado, I would like to call upon Dr. Visha to speak, where she will talk about what is actually mindfulness and how can mindfulness help us to go through difficult times, and share with us some of the mindfulness initiatives, works that works very well for her. So Dr. Visha, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Prof. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our very important and impactful, I hope, to all of you, because we are all sharing on something that is so relevant now. And as I'm talking to you, I would like to share my slides. It's more visualization. So, one of the important aspects of mindfulness is to be able to visualize. And I hope that this short sharing will actually give you some food for thought. So, let me start with what is the basic aspect of mindfulness? Is it a mind full of things that, from the time we are awake until we sleep? Is that what mindfulness is? Or is it being just there at that moment? So, this visual can clearly show you whether it's your mind that is full or being mindful. So basically, we need some theoretical foundations here. So if you go by Oxford Languages, mindful is being the quality of state of being something conscious or aware of something, or where you achieve a stage where you're aware of the present moment and you are calmly acknowledging it, accepting it as your feelings, your thoughts, your bodily sensations. And nowadays, with this COVID pandemic era, many people are using therapeutic. Those who have been using it all the while do not find any difference whether it was COVID or not COVID or working, because they are at a state of balanced. So if you go by what James Barra say, and I've been looking at many explanation about mindfulness. Of course, many people will talk about yoga, about meditation, about being quiet and things like that. But this is a very important thought to be taken back. So if everybody gets this, which means I would have achieved my objective of sharing with you. So mindfulness is simply being aware of what is happening right now without wishing it were different. Okay, right now you're all at this webinar and you're enjoying the pleasant without holding on when it will change, which definitely it will change because it's life. And being with the unpleasant, okay, a lot of us think it's unpleasant now with the COVID, without fearing it will always be this way. And definitely it won't. There'll be change. So this is something very important that we got to put into our heads. And how can mindfulness help us in difficult times like this? Okay, the first thing that we realize is the sensation in our body. And we know that every day when we get up with different moods, different sensation. Sometimes we are just gearing with energy. Sometimes we wish we can just lie down and sleep. So from that, we actually have another component of being focused, right? And how do we focus? There's lots of techniques. Many people who are into meditation or being quiet or visualization, they are getting more and more into it. They're spreading these vibes to others. And it gets again to the other aspect of mental. Okay, we hear a lot about mental health. I'm doing a research on a person who started mental health in the 50s and 60s. At that time, mental health was seen very differently. People were put in asylum, people were treated very differently, discriminated, and all that. But now, every one of us are going through this stage of mental health, mental balance, mental discipline, mental innovation. So it all comes from that component. And of course, the bodily component, okay? Being appreciative of our own body, being aware of what's happening in our body. I keep telling my friends, why don't you all try some, prana or some breathing? Because that is where it goes into your chest, and then you will realize whether the germs are still there, the germs are gone, your nostrils are clear. So that's bodily mindfulness. And of course, when we focus on every aspect of this, we have this thing called achievement. And achievement doesn't come just like that, but it comes with being mindfulness. And to share, frankly, with y'all what mindfulness works for me, and these are habits that have been put into me from young. So that is something that I have no issues with, because I think ever since I know when I was 4 or 5, and you are so lazy to get up to kindy and all that, all my mom says is, imagine you are the sun. Okay, what happens if the sun doesn't come out one day? And I was cheeky enough to ask, what if it rains? You can't see the sun. What if there's clouds? You can't see the sun. But the thing is, as we grow older, we know that without the sun, plants do not make food and the world doesn't exist anymore as what is happening today. So I always imagine that I'm the sun. And without me getting up, my body is not going to get up. My mind is not going to be alert. Okay. So that is one visualization. Another thing is, if you look at the next picture with all the stones arranged, and this is always going back to mindfulness in many, many cultures in belief system, where you actually put your body, your mind, and your soul together. Okay. And it has to work together. Everybody knows with COVID now, we have to take care of our SOP, we have to take care of our hygiene. Even if we go out for just 5 minutes, we come back, we need to shower, we need to clear our clothes, we need to wash our laundry and all that. So it is important that our mind works with our heart and works with our body. And that works very, very easily for me because it has been put that I am the sun. Okay. And then comes the other aspect of transformation. If you can see that term there by Aristotle. Why did I put Aristotle? Because I'm into ethics and we know this is all beyond religion and belief system. So every realm of nature is marvelous. So which means that every stage we are at in now, it's evolving, it's transforming. And at the end of it, the butterfly is there. So hope is always there for us. And one more thing that works very well for me is to start new things, to innovate, to look at new stuff. With current situation, I think a lot of our entrepreneurs, a lot of our academics, we've learned so much new things. And that is something inborn in many people, but we can also instill in ourselves, in our students, and we can make sure that all this actually is realized through our daily activities. So these are some of the things that works for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Visha. Thank you. So in a nutshell, from your presentation, it is really aware of what is surrounding, trying to have your body, your mind and soul together and be thankful with what you have. Yeah. All right. Right. So let's move on to the second panelist, Senior Professor Dr. Pan Liha from the University of Brunei, Darussalam. Right. Please allow me to read a little bit of CV. Senior Professor Pan Liha is a professor at the Sultan Hassanah Bolkiah Institute of Education. She also is the head of the International and Comparative Education Research Group at the university. Prior to her stint in Brunei, she was a tenured full professor at the Department of Educational Foundations, College of Education, University of Hawaii in Manoa, where she has got quite a number of affiliations with universities in Monash, Australia, among others. She has taught quite a lot of areas in English, from identity, language, pedagogy, global and international translational, and so forth. So, Professor Pan, if you could share with us your thoughts, your ideas on what are the strategies to support academic well-being as we go through this pandemic. What are the crucial emotional and psychological scaffolds that need to be there in order to teach in this online, this new paradigm? And how does mindfulness help us to alleviate work-related stress as we all work remotely? So on that note, Senior Professor Pan Liha, the floor is yours.
Good morning to everyone. I hope you can hear me clearly. I think I can't share my screen because the previous speakers need to stop sharing for me to share my screen. Okay, that's great. All right. Okay. So I think all work out now. First of all, I would like to thank my colleagues at the University of Malaya for inviting me to speak at this event. And so hello to everyone. And yes, actually, I have received 3 questions from the organizers, and first of all, I must acknowledge that I might not be the perfect or the right person to talk about mindfulness. Why? Because, actually, instead of presenting you an academic or giving you an academic presentation, I'm going to tell you stories. A few years ago, I tried to attend a mindfulness meditation sessions organized by my colleagues at Monash University, but right from the beginning, I fell asleep so easily. And then I realized that I wasn't a mindful person at all. And then that actually, from that day onward, whenever people ask me to talk about mindfulness or mental well-being or emotional well-being, actually I always find it difficult. So when my colleague here at UBD, Dr. Masita Shahril, nominated me to speak at this webinar, I was really skeptical. I said, "Are you sure that you want me to talk about this topic?" And she said, "Yes." Okay, so I give it a go. And here, in response to the 3 questions that I have been given, I'd like to take the liberty to probably maybe reword or even to find different ways to respond to them. So let's start with the first one. What are the strategies to support academic well-being amid the pandemic? As I acknowledged before, I don't think I'm the right person to answer this question, but let's try. Now, okay, let me tell you, actually, this is a real story, freedom. A few months ago, I was invited to provide a scholarly commentary on freedom in the context of international students' experiences and COVID-19. And at first I thought it would be easy, it would just be a cup of tea for me. But I soon realized that it is very difficult because I don't feel free myself. So I'm sure that a lot of you can relate to this, episode. I'd like to read it out loud here because it's quite long. So like many of you, I have not had a day when I could stay away from the computer since the outbreak of the pandemic, as the online mandate and the online hype have become the new normal. Many of us have found ourselves enslaved to the screens, even willingly. And admittedly, many of us have felt exhausted, but the impulse to give, to serve, and to contribute to societies and education has surpassed our physical and mental fatigue. We have forgotten how to take a break, how to be on holidays, how to not work, and how not to be around the screen. Invitations after invitations, demand after demand. And before we know that the pandemic has grounded us, we have actually offered to ground ourselves even very keenly. So I just like to, to emphasize that, yes, I haven't found a way to be, or to, how could I say, to live in harmony with the new normal, because constantly I'm homesick. I haven't been able to see my parents for a few years, and I don't know when I will be able to do so. So yes, on the one hand, I acknowledge Professor, the previous speakers' advice on being mindful and being aware of what is present, enjoy and embrace everything. But at the same time, I have to admit that I am finding it really hard to do so. Sometimes I find myself exploding. It's just because I don't feel free from the screens. Every day, everything around us, evolve around the screen. So yes, so what are the strategies to support academic well-being amid the pandemic? I have no answers to that, but I hope that my more encounters and more stories that I am sharing with you probably give some insight to the questions that I don't think have any direct or straightforward answers. And then the second question that I was asked to discuss, what are the crucial emotional and psychological scaffolds needed to teach in this new paradigm? So I'd like to maybe to share with you that Yes, I put 50 love letters here. Just during this online teaching, or I would say teaching during the pandemic, I've learned to do things that I hadn't done for a long time, which is writing love letters, writing letters like handwriting, lots and lot of that, and also for me, teaching in this new paradigm remind me again and again of the importance, but of the sincerity, of care, of deep listening, of communication, and all of this. I've learned to realize that all of these need to be enacted upon and need to be followed through from all levels, from the management teams to our colleagues, to support staff and our students. We cannot do all this by ourselves. And the sincere care, I would like to put forth that should be driven by the purpose of education, by the purpose of, of making education a meaningful cause for everyone involved, but should not be driven by the hype for technological innovation alone, because just the technological innovation and the constant demand to follow that, to embrace that, I think we refer to my previous slide in which I said, then we become enslaved to that. The constant need to respond to innovation, that kind of take us away from the time when we actually can listen deeply to someone and to ourselves. So I think the first question and this question are like interrelated. And yeah, because I'm sharing my screen so you don't see me, but I just want to say that, and when communication and deep listening are enacted, or at least when I do those, the responses from others are amazing. And my students have sent me 50 love letters, in this difficult time. And we all felt that we are there for each other. And yeah, and then we are not alone. And then all those love letters, as I said, I myself hadn't done it for some time. And for many of my students, writing a love letters, to me was the first time that they actually sent a love letter in their lives. And a lot of the love letters were handwritten. So I just wanted to say that, yes, these are important emotional and psychological, I would say, factors, or even just simply, that I think are needed and very important for us to teach or to do many, many things, not just teaching. And then let me move to the next one. Right. Yeah. So how does mindfulness help to elevate work-related stress as you work remotely? I think because I have, I'm based in Brunei, but I'm still affiliated with other universities. So working remotely has always been an aspect of my work life. So the pandemic doesn't make it more or less, because I still do that. But at the same time, as during the pandemic, I have also, I have been leading several book projects with other colleagues. And then I could sense that for a lot of authors, writing for publication is a joy, but for many others, it is a burden. It's just because they constantly are in fear that their work might be evaluated by many others, and in ways that probably don't pay attention to the quality of the work, but more for the quantity, and they constantly concerned about the impact factor, their promotion, and everything like that. And then that is why, I like to share with you the, another story, like particularly like yesterday, I was overjoyed when I saw this news alert in my email, about a Dutch university or University Utrecht, being the first one officially abandoning impact factor, the employment of impact factor in their hiring and promotion decisions. And suddenly I said, that is one of the best pieces of news that I have heard in a long time, particularly in academia, because this particular, action is long overdue, is needed. And if we talk about stress, work-related stress or academia, everything like that, or teaching and, different aspect of work life, then we don't need more and more, more and more so-called assessment paradigm or a lot of uncaring criteria imposed upon us. So I would think that being mindful, so I'm mindful that wonderful news like this, encouraging news like this will keep coming. And then, so at this very moment, I'm thankful for this. And I really hope that my very humble 2 cents sharing with you of my experience, as well as my reflection upon and my skeptical, my skepticism probably are helpful in some way. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Senior Professor Pan Lee Ha. Wow, Senior Professor Pan, I must say thank you from the bottom of my heart. You have shared with us something very personal, your personal space, your feelings in this as you relate to me. It's something that very relatable to all of us. I think everyone are in the same situation, but mind you, like you said, we never talked about it. We went on as if nothing has happened. And with you, as you shared your reflection on how you feel, you share with us your personal feelings. It's something that we can relate. And for me, I feel good, like, hey, I am not alone. Thank you. Thank you very much for that session. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to bring to the spotlight to the third panelist, Dr. Kun Sek Yaning from Indonesia. She is the Secretary of the Music Education Department from the Universitas Negeri Yogyakarta, Indonesia. She has done extensive research, both national and international level, teaching music, and has been working internationally with collaborative partners in Netherlands and a few other universities in France. So on that note, please allow me to bring to the spotlight Dr. Kun, in which she will be talking on a few topics, in which the area is, what are the emotional support that we could provide to our students? What would be your idea of a student holistic journey? Because each and every one of our students has gone through very difficult years starting last year. So on that note, Dr. Kun, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Yang. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera and hello everyone. Firstly, I would like to say thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm very happy to invited by University of Malaya. This is my second time to collaborate with University of Malaya. The first time in around 2 years ago, University of Malaya invited me to be external examinee of dissertation, and right now I invite to be a presenter. Thank you very much. And I would like to share what my mind. However, may I share my presentation first? Okay. uh, yes, I had already asked to present how to promoting mindfulness among students. And my point is we have to be an inspiring figures. Today, I would like to share how the condition of Indonesian today about the COVID-19. This is the graphic of COVID-19. And right now, I think Indonesia is in the low condition because yesterday, we reached top of COVID, almost 30,000 people in one day. Actually, the mean of every day, we reach only 400. And right now, we reach almost 30 people gets COVID. This is very difficult for us, yeah. And this is the province that we got. The most province got COVID is Jakarta, and the lowest is Papua. Jakarta is very basic cities, and Papua is not very busy. So we now can conclude that we more not safe when we stay in a very busy city. And for resolve the problem, because I'm from music education, so I will discuss by music opinion, yeah, and maybe I can share this ones. At the first, many people thought that COVID-19 would be gone fast, yeah, but it was not. Therefore, people must be able to adapt to the new situation in 2021. COVID-19 will a short time has changed people's routine. This is a period of transition. It is a very important moment that will determine how the world will look in the future. How successful of the community is in the forming a new world after COVID-19 is determined by the attitude of the community during the transition period. And based on my observation, how people think, behave, and speak are divided into two groups. That is the group that responds positively and the group that responds with a negative attitude. In the first group are people with a positive attitude. Their characters include optimistic, self-assured, confident that COVID-19 pandemic can be overcome. And of course, this attitude should be promoted. And the second group, which is a group that is negative in nature, include pessimism, negative thinking, and the tendency of respond negatively, as well as have doubt about all form of effort to overcome COVID-19. Of course, this attitude should be avoided. And because that I say before, because I'm from a music educator, I would like to share my opinion about what happened in music community. I had already see of many music performance, especially of unison music. And based on my observe, we can conclude about what we can do about the condition of the community. Okay, I will share. This is the unison when I had already take research around 2 weeks ago, and I see when children sing together, they perform 8 character. This is I would like to share with you with this video. And when they sing together, the intonation is very good. But when they sing one by one, and there have many performance. The first one, if children can sing with intonation very good. The second one, children cannot sing very good. The third one, children can sing very good when all students sing very good. And the other one is children who can sing very good, but they cannot sing very good when among of them is not good. This is that my opinion. Okay, I would like to show you one of them. Oke, terima kasih ya. Selanjutnya. And I would like to share my opinion how to solve our problem about this with the phenomenon that I was see in the unison of song. Yeah, may I share my presentation again? Okay. Yeah. For the discussion, yeah, what emotional support can you practice for your student? The universe as and society, both micro and macro, were created based on the law of order, which is principle have something in common. For example, the Milky Way solar system, in which the center of the solar system is the sun, is surrounded by planets in its orbit. These planets, like Earth, are surrounded by their moons, eaten, and that even every small object such as atomic molecules have a circular model. And based on that, I would like to solve the problem of the world by the micro problem in the music. Yeah. Okay, I will to try. There are people who are gifted with singing, so they can sing with the correct intonation and rhythm. Even in life, there are people who are given the ability to do a job and adapt well to the new situation. There are also people who cannot sing with the correct intonation and rhythm. However, there are also people who cannot do a job well. 3. There are people who can sing well once they get used to it. There are people who can do some work and adjust after getting used to it in practice. People who can sing with the correct intonation, both when singing together or alone. In life, there are people who dare to determine their own attitude, even though they are different from the opinion of the majority. And 5, people who can sing with the correct intonation, both when singing together or alone. There are people who can work well when in a good environment. And 6, people who can sing with the correct intonation when singing alone, but follow the wrong intonation when the majority of the children in the group sing with the wrong intonation. In life, there are people who tend to follow the opinion of the majority, even though their opinions are different. And 7, people who can sing with the correct intonation when singing alone, but follow the wrong intonation when the majority of the children in the group sing with the wrong intonation. In life, there are people who in the beginning are not able to do according to right, but others sometimes able to do the job or adjust well. In the end, a group of the people sing the unison voice depending on the loudest voice. If loudest voice is correct, then most of the children sing with the correct intonation, and vice versa. If the loudest voice is wrong, then most of the children sing with the wrong intonation. In life, there are people who go with the flow depending on the social environment. If he has a good environment, he will be good, and vice versa. If he is in a bad environment, he will be bad. So, based on that, we can play so the role of the 8 types of the character. According to the respective field and competence, when we become expert in field, we will acquire the first type of character, namely people who know and behave properly. However, when we are not expert, we may play a role as the number 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, and 8. That is a group that is not an expert of the field. So they do not always behave properly because they depend on the external influence. Then, okay, how do we become an expert in our field? So if we are a leader, when we are in the position, we must be a leader and must lead with confidence in the field of management. There is the right man of the right place. Or Muhammad had said that if the matter is not left in the expert, then wait for the distraction. We must be vocal if we know something that people follow to the right path. The more competent a leader will be, the more they will be able to bring the community forward. For example, a situation in the road traffic in Indonesia, when a group of vehicles have across the road, if the smaller vehicle such as a motorcycle at the front, it will take a longer time to cross the road. Unlike when a car is at the front, will a car at the front, it would be safer.
Dr. Kun, I'm sorry, I have to be mindful of the time. You have about a minute, please.
So I would like to share, this is my conclusion. Okay. Actually, with difficulty there is as easy. So there are certainly mainly convenience that we can look for during difficult of the case of the COVID-19, and get what you need, not what you want, and plan what you eat and eat what you plan. And for the best future for among other, especially for young generation, we maybe can stylish of healthy and according to the religious of teaching, and explore the noble values of science or culture in the past and have a positive effect in life, and develop creativity and potential for innovation in this new era adaptation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Kun. Thank you for putting it within the context of your field of study in music, and you shared with us the experiment between the two groups. Yeah. For me, my takeaway from somebody who's really clueless on music, my takeaway on your presentation, really the analogy is very strong there, where your strong message is where we must collaborate in each other. It is fine to be not okay. Some people have got that very strong resilience, just who can really sing, like you said, there are some who are finding very, very difficult to go through, like you said, the ones who cannot simply sing on their own or even as a group. But your strong message I can see there is really, we must be talking to each other. We must collaborate with each other. We must be reminding to each other to be mindful, and together, I think as a whole community, we will be able to go through this pandemic and have a better quality of our life. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to bring forward the final speaker, Associate Professor Dr. Lu Chai. Please allow me to read his CV. Associate Professor Dr. Lu Chai Si Yen Yuan is a director of the Contemplative Education Center at the Mahidol University in Thailand. He got his PhD in medical anthropology from the Amsterdam University in the Netherlands, and was the former dean of the Mahidol University Faculty of Social Science and Humanities. Dr. Lu Chai, we're talking on a slightly different perspective in which he will be sharing on the role of higher education in a general where some of the issues that he would like to share with you would be, what are the important elements that higher education must have to be mindful when they make plans in a post-pandemic? How can management at the higher education promote a culture of well-being among educators, as well as students, as well as the whole community? So on that note, Associate Professor Dr. Lu Chai, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Professor Yang. It's really an honor to be invited to join this interesting and timely webinar. Before I continue my talk, please apologize for not being prepared the slides for my presentation, but I will try to go as clear as possible through my talk. First, let me introduce a little bit my background so that you will understand why I'm talking in this issue. I might not answer all the questions raised by the organizer, but they will be related to all the issues raised. I'm from Contemplative Education Center of Mahidol University. At our center, this is the only center in this big university. At our center, we work with reflexive practices such as meditation, body work, creative process, dialogue, and others to explore, understand, and address personal, interpersonal, organizational, societal, and community development issues. Obviously, mindfulness is part of that, self-awareness is part of that. We have provided educational program for undergrad students, university staff, and we also offer master program in contemplative education. The educational goal of our center is to foster the skills and knowledge of contemplative practitioners, community leaders, and educators. Our commitment is to the promotion of wellness and transformation of society. In the case of epidemic of COVID, it has brought us both opportunity and limitation in performing the duties in our university. Many activities have been canceled, but some new ways of contribution, basically through online means, has been created. In the talk to follow, I will share with you all some personal thoughts and experiences promoting mindfulness in society in the midst of COVID epidemic. Thailand has shared similar experiences with all nations in the region. Generally, COVID-19 has brought negative impacts to people from all walks of life, seriously among the vulnerable. No one can give certain answer and promise when and how this crisis will end. For most, COVID is a threat that needs to be eliminated quickly. COVID must be stopped so that the old normal will be resumed. Fears, worries, stress, and angers are abound. The public has been frustrated with lockdown measures and are concerned with getting the vaccine and waiting for politics to bring back the old normal, the old ways of living, eating, traveling, etc., which are viewed as a freedom and well-being. Amid this situation, expectation for academic contribution is heard not only from medical, but also from spiritual one. To me and my colleague experiences in dealing with COVID crisis and to talk about mindfulness, we believe that we should start by going back to the deeper roots of the phenomenon at the paradigmatic or mindset level. To my view, in dealing with the crisis, the whole world is learning the realities that have been ignored and overlooked. COVID-19 has given us lessons that put challenges to the underlying premises and values in society embedded in science, technology, developments, as well as meaning of life, death, and health. To face with this crisis, then, right understanding, quote unquote, of the crisis is critical, of which mindfulness is the key to achieve that. One understanding or right understanding that need to be considered is the real nature of the crisis, COVID-19. Although COVID-19 is a threat to human survival on the one hand, it can be seen as an opportunity on the others. COVID is not the first and the last epidemic of humankind. The world has experienced that kinds of global epidemic at least 5 times in the world history, killing hundreds of millions of lives. Epidemic of COVID in the global scale is then not an exceptional. COVID is similar to other crises we are experiencing, like the case of global warming, disaster, war, and violence, and so on and so forth. Forces that fuel the global spreading of COVID is what we call development. Like someone has said, in this crisis, human is in fact the virus and COVID is a vaccine. Most human activities under the premise of progress and modernization during the past centuries have brought destructive change and imbalance to the planet that can be felt from the underground water to the whole ecology to the space up there. One thing that we seem to overlook is that the spread of COVID-19 lies in the way we live our life. Globalization has been the effective infrastructure in transporting the virus to invade into our defense line from the gene level to the territorial border. These phenomena have taught us that the progress we used to believe in fact, an illusion. COVID has also given us an opportunity to rethink about one important thing, the nature of life, illness, suffering, dying, and death. Modern life, especially advanced medical technology, has concealed us from realizing of the fact that illness, dying, and death is natural, and it was all of us will experience one day. It may be too idle to say that COVID is showing us the true nature of the destiny which our Eastern culture has taught us. Yet, this truth has been moved away from us and make us believe that we can defeat nature, illness, and death. Illness and death are what we have to escape, not to be prepared. and that caused the whole human suffering from the fear of dying more than the dying itself. By doing this way, we will live with a pandemic in a more peaceful way, not running away from fear and frightening, but also with carefulness. COVID is disclosing us the deeper truths that could help mankind revolutionize its consciousness. Through this view, COVID epidemic is giving us a very valuable lessons to critically assess our mental model, values, and meaning of life, death, health, and nature. To achieve to this realization, mindfulness is an effective means that brings us the foundation of life view. One of our recent experiences in promoting self-awareness in dealing with crisis was in the online program for students and health staff in the University Quarantine Hospital in Chiang Mai and in Bangkok. In Chiang Mai, hundreds of students infected with the virus through activities celebrating a semester break. Medical and health staff were mobilized to run the place. Amid stressful situation, health staff seemed to gain the most from the activities arranged online. Many for the first time learned to understand their inside world and realizing how it is essential to make their hard life more peaceful. Yet, for the young generation, very few join the activities. We have learned that self-awareness and looking inside as a way to cope with the complex outside world is far beyond their imagination. For them, suffering, stress, worries, loneliness are problems to be solved and fulfilled by searching from outside material world. The implications of our experiences is that mindfulness is very essential that help us look at or understand the true nature of the crisis and would help us to be able to confront with the crisis in the calm and peaceful way. Yet, promoting mindful society is a crucial means in the time of crisis. In this VUCA world, characterized by the complex, rapid, and interconnected dynamics, strengthening the inside world is crucial to the future survival of human. Mindfulness is so important to make the whole society to pause, to rethink contemplatively. Yet, the fact is that the mindsets of the whole society are more focusing on the outside realities, looking for answers and solutions, and that material needs as a priority among the vulnerable, put the great challenge to the promotion of mindfulness in the midst of a pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Associate Professor Lu Chai. Just for the interest of others who might not be familiar with the fields of education, yeah, the contemplative pedagogy is actually an approach of teaching and learning that really supports deep learning through focused attention, reflection, heightened awareness, and includes mindfulness among other practices. Thank you very much, Associate Professor Lu Chai, for that. And I'm sure for some of you who might want to try to integrate in your teaching and learning, this would something that you might want to read up and see through. Okay, now on behalf of the organizing committee, thank you so much to all the speakers. You have bring in all the different dimensions from putting in music and really Dr. Pam, you were talking through your heart, and Dr. Fisher on the information of what is actually a mindfulness. Okay, let me just read through some of the questions. So the first question goes to Dr. Visha from Moses Pandin. During the COVID-19 self-isolation, how can we apply mindfulness independently? Is there any digital procedure or resources or a booklet that can be accessed for us to apply mindfulness independently?
Thank you for the question, Moses. Okay, if you have seen, and I think some of you missed my presentation, but throughout my 3 or 4 slides, there was always that independent thought of mindfulness. Okay, because when we talk about mindfulness, it comes from within, not without, which means you start from your internal. A very good example, all of you who are here, because I did it wrongly when I went for yoga 30 years ago. When you breathe in, all of you breathe in, what happens to your diaphragm? Does it become expand or does it become smaller? If it becomes smaller, that means you are breathing wrongly. You know, some of us do have panic attacks. Some of my friends do have panic attack. And the first time they tell me, Visha, what's happening? I can't breathe. I can't breathe. So I asked her, how do you breathe? So even the sense of breathing, those of our friends who have had COVID, right? When they go for checkup, the first thing that they check up is the oxygen level in their body. And that is being mindful. If you do not breathe in properly, your nostrils, okay, your breath, your chest, your sense of knowing the oxygen going in and the carbon dioxide coming out, that itself is a simple mindfulness. So when you asked about whether there's a digital way, whether there is a booklet, now with internet, there are tons. We used to do yoga and meditation on face to face. Now everything is online, and yoga teachers are making tons. From 30 students, they are having 300 students, 400 students. Why? Everybody is doing it at their own pace, you know, at their own time, recorded and all that. So for your question, the main thing is being mindful is being independent. That's where you see the freedom in your life. And I think the professor from Thailand has clearly mentioned a lot of aspects on, you know, in his center and being mindful. So there are tons of procedure. If you look at online, you just click mindfulness, characteristics of mindfulness, what kind of awareness you can have, and start small, right? Do not go to trying to do, you know, all those very massive yoga things. That will come if you're really keen, but it is even not necessary. I give simple examples. For the Muslims who do your prayers, your raka'ats, you know, your different steps, that itself is being mindful. So every single thing that we do in life is totally going back to how are we feeling at this moment? What are we going on towards? And to always keep ourselves empty, because I realize from my own experience, when we are empty, ideas just keep pouring in. And that's actually being mindful for me personally. So I hope I answered that question, Moses and Prof. Yong.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I just would like to share a note from our viewers from the FB to Professor Pan. There's a lot of, they want to thank you because when you speak, it comes from your heart and really gives a very lasting impact for them to reflect back and look at their strength within. So Dr. Pan, would you like to share any other thoughts? I know it's very personal, but really it gets to our heart. Would you like to say anything on that one?
First of all, thank you so much that, you know, for your deep listening. Actually, I'm really touched. I think I have a lot of life stories to tell. I don't know like how personal I can get, but I remember, you know, I mentioned two major book projects that I have been leading during the pandemic. And like one was on higher education reform in Vietnam, where I'm originally from Vietnam. And then actually I co-edited that book with a colleague in Australia, and then he passed away before we even reached to the production stage. So basically like halfway. And then when the book reached a very critical stage, that was when the pandemic, started. And then I suddenly found myself being kind of, yes, of course, you never asked for this to happen, but as it was happening, I had to shoulder all this. And I had to constantly remind myself that I'm not in it all alone. I'm in this with all the contributing authors, with everyone, and with the colleague who passed away, you know, all the family suffered. And so and at the same time, with the escalation of the pandemic, our contributing authors, they were working or studying in different countries in the world, and it was so difficult to, I mean, I felt terrible. I felt bad to constantly asking people, like remind people of deadlines, remind people that, we have to do this, we have to do that. And then suddenly I think it dawned on me that having one more publication or having a fewer public, one less publication, does it really matter? The point is really to enjoy the process, to make the process the most meaningful journey for everyone. And so I remember I received a lot of emails from different contributing authors. And one of them actually told me that maybe when academia, basically when a lot of academics are constantly in rush to publish, and then they tend to participate in way too many publication projects, and they hardly receive good feedback, or I would say quality feedback. And so they just felt like, the publication process wasn't a fulfilling experience for them. So they just reach out to me and telling me that they enjoy the process, they enjoy working with, with me and the colleague who had passed away, because we listen to every authors, we talk to every authors, and we actually read their work carefully, we communicated ideas. So it was like it was a meaningful process for us all. So I don't know if whatever I share shed any more light into the question. But I just want to constantly remind myself and everyone that working in academia is, to a great extent, we have many privileges, but but at another level or at many levels, we are also constantly under so many pressure, and those pressures, so many times we impose and we internalize on us way too much. So it's just a reminder that yes, being mindful is important. And as Professor Visha just said, when you let yourself empty of concern, empty of worries, empty of, of anxiety to be externally evaluated, then yes, more ideas will come. But yes, so I think that is another thing that I want to share. But I think I like to give the floor to everyone rather than me talking. Yes.
Thank you very much, Senior Professor Pan. Yes, a very strong message there. Again, you talked about our journey as an academician, make it meaningful. Go do away with X number of publication, X number of research. It is really doing something that you really love, that is very close to your heart. Thank you. Right, there's one more question from the audience here. I shall leave it open, but I'm just going to read out because she has not actually directed to anyone. Right, we practice blended learning. However, it becomes predominant part in teaching now, as it is, yeah. But now we are teaching online, so there we have to have that balance of intelligence, the emotional quotient, the social quotient, the physical quotient, spiritual quotient. So how do we come up with a balance? So anybody here from the 4 speakers would like to share their thoughts on this one? I shall open for anyone. Perhaps Prof. Luchai, if you could share, because you've been into this center, how do you come up with a balance?
I have to say that we are on the process of learning how to maximize the technology. For example, by nature, our activities, our kinds of learning kinds of activities based on person-to-person kinds of interaction. And we believe that the process of interacting would boost the momentum of learning and self kinds of reflection kind of things. But nowadays we are not allowed to even organize kinds of meeting with person like 10, 20. So we try to make use of technology. We rely on Zoom a lot. But we are learning that perhaps Zoom can be a way if we get to know it more, and then we might be able to mobilize the process. Because, for example, technology can allow us to separate kinds of a small group discussion. It requires preparation very much, in a sense that how could we design activities that would really, make the participants learn to self-reflect. So what I can say right now is we are learning about the process, but things seem to be like there can be solution that we can balance between it. But ideally speaking, if we could get back to the things that we used to do, having kinds of face-to-face kind of interaction, that would be better. But we seem to have no choice. We have to learn to adjust to the new normal, new technology.
Thank you. Thank you very much on your feedback. Yes, I think we don't have any other choice but leverage on the technology that we have. But mind you, like I said, this session itself, although I'm not able to meet you, we are all doing it online, but somehow the message that you have put forward are really strong. I can feel it from your emotions. I can feel it from the choices of words that you choose. I could kind of relate to the images that you share with me. And I think with that, if we can, as what Dr. Visha has mentioned, do not judge people, just enjoy the moment that we have and be mindful of the whoever the students in the classroom, or even in this case, in this session. Yeah. So ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of this session. I am not going to summarize. It will not do justice to all the excellent 4 presenters who have actually given their own a perspective of how do we promote mindfulness at their level, at their institution. So before we end, I would like to thank everyone, the panelists, the organizers, the co-organizers, International Relations Office, the ITTP COVID Secretariat for working hard and making this a very special event. So before we end this session, I would like to give a short preview of our next events, which will take us back 100 years to the ancient China in the forum about ASEAN heritage, Chinese ceramic collections and development. The objective of this forum is bring together leaders of researchers and practitioners to exchange, share their experience and the recent finding in Chinese ceramic, including ceramic science, technology in China. The events will be on the 27th of July, and it is brought to you by our institute, the Kongzi Institute, University Malaya, in collaboration of the Museum Arts, ASEAN Arts University Malaya. Thank you once again. You guys have been awesome. Do take care and be mindful every day. Keep reminding yourself. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.